In college, Charles Hall operated on a simple premise. If he couldn't see it, it didn't exist. He spent his days buried under heavy workloads and demanding studies, all while struggling with a baseline of debilitating anxiety and low self-worth. There was a deep, persistent void inside him that academic success and constant busyness couldn't fill. He wasn't sure what was missing, only that his materialist worldview offered no way to address the emptiness. This changed when he heard Journey's "Don't Stop Believing" playing in the middle of a cartoon. It was an unexpected moment of pop culture hope that stirred a quiet intuition. He was about to embark on the greatest search of his life. That fleeting feeling exposed how little he actually believed in. It launched a 14-year quest to find a reality that could match the joy he felt in those 3 minutes of music. Charles began his search by reconnecting with a childhood friend in the Bay Area. Together, they dove into theories of consciousness raising and the idea that psychedelics could connect a person to a global revolution of the mind. Curiosity rapidly morphed into a total crusade. Charles became a yoga fanatic, a health guru, and a conspiracy theory investigator, consuming every alternative interpretation of reality he could find. This shared, exceptional world felt safe, but it blinded Charles to his actual life. He spent years exploring his own mind while neglecting his real-world responsibilities and his relationships with those outside his circle. The 8-year partnership ended abruptly in 2014 when the friend made unwanted romantic advances towards Charles's girlfriend. Even then, Charles defended his friend, rationalizing the betrayal because he didn't want to lose the intellectual world they had built. This moment of friction revealed the cost of his search. By prioritizing abstract truths and exceptional theories over the well-being of his partner, Charles realized his journey had become a self-absorbed exploration that left him entirely alone. A shift toward the practical began when Charles met Steve through a public speaking club. Steve introduced him to a philosophy that moved the focus away from internal revelations and toward outward value. This was the compassion practice, a simple equation where the more you help others get what they want, the more you will get what you want. It was a mental turning point that replaced self-centeredness with service. While working for a health initiative based on this outward focus, Charles met Maria, a psychologist from Mexico. She was attending a dance therapy class he facilitated, and the two of them quickly fell in love with each other. Maria was a devout Catholic, and for 4 years, Charles accompanied her to Mass. He viewed her faith with a sense of intellectual superiority at first, but over time, the beauty of the community and the personal nature of the scripture began to soften his skepticism. Serving others and participating in a physical community began to provide the stability that his solo intellectual pursuits never could. The void was finally beginning to close, not through information, but through connection. In August 2020, the COVID-19 lockdowns pushed Charles and Maria to move to Washington state. They stayed with an artist named Larry, who would provide the final piece of evidence Charles's materialist mind required. Larry asked Charles to critique a presentation on the Shroud of Turin, the historical burial cloth of Jesus. Charles sat down to analyze the delivery, but found himself captivated by the scientific data. The cloth had undergone intense scrutiny by both secular and religious scientists, using highly advanced instruments to analyze the fabric at a molecular level. The striking finding was evidence of a sudden release of ultraviolet light that chemically altered the fibers, a phenomenon science couldn't replicate. For Charles, this energy flash functioned as a physical record of the resurrection, transforming theology into history. This undeniable physical evidence was the conclusion Charles needed. It bridged the gap between his scientific upbringing and the Christian faith, making the existence of Jesus a matter of fact rather than just theory. Even with his new belief in Jesus, Charles still struggled with his historical prejudice against the Catholic Church as an institution, questioning if it had maintained its original truth over the centuries. He found a different kind of proof in a marriage preparation class, sociological data showing that practicing Catholics had the lowest divorce rates. The Church wasn't just a collection of doctrines, it was a system that produced measurably stronger human bonds. The decision became personal when a local bishop looked directly at him and stated that converting would make his marriage stronger. The words echoed the statistics he had just seen. His standard for truth had fully shifted. He no longer looked for abstract secrets or conspiracy theories, but for the tangible evidence of healthy, committed relationships and a supportive community. The final confirmation came when the church community helped him find a private nursing job that perfectly suited his background. What started as a prayer between Maria and her grandmother became a practical reality that provided for their new life. The streetlights and people from the Journey song weren't just lyrics. They represented the community that guided Charles out of isolation and into a family. Charles realized that true belief isn't about having an answer for every theological detail. It is about the capacity to be giving, forgiving, and compassionate within a community that shares those same goals. The search that began in a college apartment had finally led him home.